We're approaching the 100th anniversary of the Spanish flu, which was devastating. Is that possible in our modern age?
You know, people ask me what keeps me up at night, and the thing that keeps me up at night is just what you brought up, pandemic flu. So I think it's very possible, and we're at risk for another pandemic.
This is not a drill. We repeat, this is not a drill. These are the last words you hear before the public authorities enforce your block into immediate quarantine. The 2019 novel virus has now become uncontrollable and is spreading like wildfire within all communities around the country. Martial law is established. Armed military personnel begin patrolling the streets in a desperate attempt to fight an enemy they were never prepared for. Thousands of the already infected start to riot mere feet away from your home. Law enforcement, outnumbered and afraid the situation will soon become unbearable, start shooting down innocent people. Afraid for your life, you turn on the TV, where the president addresses the nation. He unsuccessfully tries to calm everyone and announces that in the turmoil of recent events, the entire country is going into permanent lockdown. Contaminated food and medicine trucks stop dead in their tracks. You suddenly realize that your provisions are scarce and won't last more than a few days, and you'll soon be in urgent need of medical care that may never come. The situation becomes catastrophic. Fellow patriot, my name is John Layham, and the events you witnessed are soon to become a harsh reality for every human being on this planet, including your family. These events will be set in motion by a disaster so big and so devastating that it'll eradicate humanity as we know it and could wipe out 243 million lives in less than 15 weeks from now. And while the World Health Organization and the most renowned epidemiologists are sending us desperate warnings, the mainstream media moguls, together with every world government, are terrified to say anything because of the mass panic this will generate. The following news may be shocking to you, but you need to continue watching this report, because soon you'll see with your own eyes the irrefutable evidence that a disaster of biblical proportions is heading toward us in just 3 months from now, and is single-handedly going to decimate every nation on earth, including this one. And if you think you're prepared for this, if you think your stockpile or personal safe house will keep you unharmed, you're soon about to realize that you may be in the worst position of all, because all your years of preparation and training and all your survival tools will be completely powerless against this unseen enemy, that once it sweeps over every country on the planet, infecting billions, it'll irreversibly establish a new world order, a regime where the weakest are left to perish and the rich elite prey on the poor. In fact, when this happens, the information I'm about to unveil by the end of this presentation will give you the insights you and your family need to not only survive, but thrive in those times of horror. When the doomsday clock sounds its final tick, you and your loved ones will be well prepared, well fed, stay healthy, and even have the ability to help others without putting yourself in harm's way. So keep watching this short video, because by the end of it, you'll discover an emergency survival system developed by a professor of epidemiology specialized in fighting diseases and global pandemics that will give you complete power to keep your loved ones safe in the upcoming crisis. Like I said, my name is John Layham, and I'm a world-renowned survival expert, loyal husband, and loving father of 2 little girls. I've spent almost my entire life preparing for the worst disasters Mother Nature or the diabolic mind of man may lay in my path. I was one of the few patriots who, during Hurricane Katrina, not only kept his family safe, but was able to provide shelter and food for the unfortunate ones. I've spent weeks alone in the wilderness with nothing more than a knife and a water bottle, and not only survived, but thrived. I've been in close combat more times than I can count during my years of military training. And yet, I never thought I'd have to fight an enemy like this. At first, I thought it was just fear-mongering from those who have nothing else better to do but scare people. I thought this could never happen to the world we live in. I thought it could never happen to this country. But I couldn't be more wrong. And when I saw the mathematical evidence of this catastrophe, it scared the daylights out of me. And what's even worse is that the World Health Organization, together with the foremost epidemiologists, have been warning about this for years. They call them global pandemics, or in their less popular name, species annihilators. You probably heard this word a lot recently, but what mainstream media and worldwide governments fail to mention is how devastating an event like this truly is. You see, a pandemic always has one culprit at its core, an unseen virus that the human immune system doesn't know how to fight against. They usually come from animals such as pigs or bats, and they are scraps of genetic material which attach to the human DNA like a key slipping into a lock. So when the first case emerges, the world starts having a very serious problem. Because now doctors have a new virus on their hands. They don't know how fast it spreads among people, nor how many of them it kills. And worst of it, they have no idea how many got infected before they discovered it. Now, when this novel virus first surfaced in China, sending 50 million people into complete lockdown, health authorities knew and hid the true dangers behind it, because this novel virus checks every warning box on the list. And as evidence suggests, it may pose an even bigger threat to human civilization than the 1918 Spanish flu, which killed over 50 million people, sending the world into chaos and horror. However, this devastating pandemic is just the beginning of a crisis like humanity has never faced before in all its long history. Later on in this video, I'll expose how this world destroyer will set the path for a crisis that will end mankind as we know it in less than 15 weeks from now. But first, allow me to explain why this virus is so dangerous and why you should be scared to death about what it brings. You see, when I first heard about this virus outbreak, I thought it was just a simple flu that kills people in the same way the regular flu does, and people shouldn't make such a big mess about it, because it'll soon be contained. But I couldn't be more wrong. Because as surprising as this may sound, the Spanish flu virus, which killed tens of millions, is a summer breeze compared to this 2019 virus. The estimated death rate for the Spanish flu virus was somewhere around 2.5%, whereas the death rate for this novel virus is almost double, close to 4.5%. Now, here's where things get even worse. Scientists judge the severity of a virus by how fast a person can infect other people around them. With this Spanish flu, the number is 1.4, which means that for every person who gets infected, on average, 1.4 people get infected as well. With this virus, however, that number yet again doubles. So with every poor husband that gets infected, his wife and 2 children will become infected too. And since there are no vaccines for this yet, the best doctors can do is pray that people don't get the disease and hospitals don't get overwhelmed with patients. And if you are hoping for a vaccine to be released soon, unfortunately, I have some very bad news for you. Even if a vaccine would be found today, health officials say it'll still take between 12 to 18 months before it becomes available for the public, no matter how fast the FDA gives their approvals. Which means that by the time regular people like me and you do get it, it may already be too late given how fast this virus kills people. Now, if you think I'm done, what I'm about to say next will make your blood run cold. You see, the absolute worst part of these viruses is that they almost always mutate without warning. And this is the most frightening thing you will never hear on your local news. Because when viruses mutate, it's game over. In the late summer of 1918, when the Spanish influenza virus had already made its death toll, sending millions to their graves, this virus did something which put the whole world to horror. It severely mutated, causing a dramatically higher infection and death rate. So once this virus decides it's time to completely wreak havoc on the human body, which could occur very soon, it will start mutating, and then horrific things start to happen. First, the mutation always results in a much stronger virus, which has much higher rates of infection and death. Then, any possible vaccine that health organizations find will be useless against this new strain of virus, which now has the power to kill 3 times more people than it had before, and with an infection rate shockingly higher. And last, people who already have the disease and got well may not be immune to it, which means the entire world is now once again at the mercy of this evil enemy. And the doomsday countdown is now running faster than ever. Because by the time the scientists get lucky and manage to find another vaccine, given the mathematical infection rate, for many, it'll already be too late. And for those still left to bear the burden of losing their loved ones, there will be one question remaining to be answered. Who will be the first to get the vaccines? Do you think that it will be you or someone you love? Are you willing to bet your chances and hope that your lucky number will be drawn from this chamber of the doomed? Sure, some will escape, the richest and government shills who have the power to pull strings and get what they want before anyone else. But for other poor souls like me and you, not blessed with being born with a silver spoon in their mouths, well, they'll just have to face the tragic mayhem on their own. Because what this mass pandemic brings, besides killing most of the world's population, will be the destruction that comes after, when all the safety systems are down and law enforcement can't protect its citizens anymore. Unlike other disasters like hurricanes or terrorism, This pandemic will bring total destruction to the very core of this country and the entire world. Financial markets will turn to chaos. Sick people will start to panic and fight law enforcement, desperately trying to get medical care. The government will impose martial law and immediately quarantine the entire country. From there, it's a simple equation. Quarantine will lead to panic. Panic will lead to riots. And riots will help spread the virus like wildfire. And by the time everyone realizes how bad the situation actually is, then it will already be too late. Just imagine what it'll be like. Your favorite TV show is suddenly interrupted by a special report. The president addresses the nation from an undisclosed location, announcing that effective immediately in the entire country is instituted martial law in a desperate attempt to try and contain the disease. Panicked and sick, people run for their lives to get checked in the nearest hospital, but are forced instead to stand for hours, if not days, in long miles of waiting lines. The governor issues a warning. Starting now, anyone who steps outside without wearing a mask will be shot down. Soldiers patrol your neighborhood, braced for an invisible enemy nobody has told them how to fight against. Streets once filled with people are now filled with sorrow and grief. Sick people looking for salvation, being avoided like lepers by those not yet sick. And you, dead scared to leave your home. That's just day one. Then just a few days later, you realize that your food supply is scarce and you ran out of important medicine that was keeping your health in order. The food that your beloved government and FEMA promised to arrive soon is now late, and nobody knows when it will come. You decide to try your luck outside, even if chances are you'll get infected. You go to your local supermarket, whose shelves were once filled with everything. Now it's just broken windows and looters ransacking everything they can. You're afraid to step inside because you don't have the strength you once had to fight the angry ravagers. Somehow, a little girl shows mercy on you and gives you a scrap of her bread until her mother pulls her away and they start running away. You're happy that you and your wife have at least something to eat tonight. By day 7, almost all your resources run out. FEMA is nowhere to be seen, probably closed due to rough times. You hear on the radio that there might be hope in a shelter a few miles away from your neighborhood. But for now, they can't take any more survivors. So you make one more desperate move, and somehow, by a miracle, you find a FEMA camp in the next city. What you are witnessing is just the prophetic beginning of what humanity will face in less than a few months from now. It's the beginning of a new dark age, which it will take years to recover from. But do you have years to spend as a FEMA prisoner, waiting your turn to be fed and hoping they don't run out of portions for the day? As always, the government is doing everything they can to protect their population. But what does that mean for you and your family? A wristband with a number on it in an isolation camp where all you do is hope that maybe one day you could sleep in a cozier place than a bunk bed. Is this really how it all ends? When the mayhem sets in, there'll be 3 death waves. The first wave will go pretty fast, with most of the elderly and people with weak immune systems not being able to survive the virus. The second death wave will come as an aftershock. Many people will be left to die on the streets because the medical system will be overwhelmed with patients. Then the third and final wave will hit the ones remaining, now sick and desperate, looking for food and clean water. People will start to riot and kill anyone who stands between them and a scrap of bread. Remember what happened during Hurricane Katrina when desperate looters ravaged people's homes, looting even the most useless things? This pandemic will change the course of human history, and almost no one is doing anything about it because governments worldwide and the mainstream media blatantly fail to warn their citizens, leaving you and your family in the dark and unable to fend for yourself. While the ones who actually seek to offer advice, not only is their information often misguided, but it can be seriously dangerous and life-threatening. I know this because over the last 3 months, I've been studying every major course on the market, trying to find something practical on how to prepare for the upcoming disaster. No one seemed to properly understand or have the proper medical training to offer real advice on how to fight this unseen enemy. You could read quickly through the lines and see that most of the stuff that's being offered out there is just snake oil trying to make a quick buck. Seeing all this made me furious beyond measure and almost had me give up on my search and just hope for the best when the crisis hits. But all it took was looking in my 2 little girls' eyes and knowing that no one else in the world can protect them better than me. It made me realize that I just can't leave this to chance. It was then, by a strange coincidence, that I met this weird professor of mathematical biology and epidemiology, a weird science that I didn't understand at first. He explained to me that mathematical biology deals with the study of mathematical models of infectious diseases and how likely they are to turn into something much worse like an epidemic or global pandemic. When I first saw his projections about the current virus outbreak, I couldn't believe my eyes. It estimated that almost 243 million people could be wiped off the face of the planet, and no soul on Earth can do anything to prevent this. I desperately wanted to know if the numbers were real, so I begged him to explain them better to me. He said that he's been warning people and public authorities for months, ever since the outbreak first occurred in Wuhan, but no one listened to him. When I looked at the numbers he had projected until now, comparing them with what the World Health Organization reported, they were extremely close, which meant the data was terrifyingly accurate. I was disturbed and shocked at the same time. You have to look at the social and economic implications of what a pandemic like this brings, he said to me. People will continue to ignore it and get on with their lives until they start seeing more than a few thousand deaths, he added. But by then, it may already be too late because the disease is now spreading on a community level and it cannot be stopped. Many people will lose their loved ones. Then it will be about optimization. Who gets to live? Who's left to die? All decided by a doctor who's coming on after a 48-hour shift without sleep, reading the names of the doomed off his clipboard. God forbid the virus mutates and makes any chance of developing a vaccine completely useless, he said with a sharp voice. The professor's words seemed truly horrifying, but I had to ask. So how much time do we have, Professor? The best estimate is around 15 weeks, if not less, given the current infection rate, he replied. That's what his mathematical projections were showing also. So what can we do to prepare, I asked him. Well, first, don't believe that social distancing alone is going to protect you from getting the disease. This virus can survive for days on the simplest things like a doorknob. How many times have you opened a door in the last week, John? He said to me. Then you have to accept that no one is completely bulletproof against this virus. This also means there are certain things you can do to dramatically increase your chances of survival, he continued. I can only show you what you can do from the disease point of view. Unfortunately, I cannot show you how to survive the crisis that will come after, because it will come, and history shows us that it will bring death with it. And it will not just be the death of those infected. It will be innocent men, women, and children caught in the middle of this pandemic war. Only those who take early precautions might still stand a chance, the professor replied. Listening to him talking, I realized that my knowledge and experience about surviving even the most horrid situations, combined with all his years of working with viruses and finding ways to combat them, is exactly what I was looking for. As it turns out, he was looking for someone to provide him with real information on how to survive before the pandemic sends its final death wave. So after talking with him for more than a week and writing down every aspect he considered useful in a nightmare scenario like this, I finally had something that would keep my family safe. It was the complete picture. A complete way to not only survive, but thrive in a situation where the enemy is everywhere and yet unseen by the naked eye. It was all I ever wanted, and I deeply thanked him for his advice. I shared all my knowledge with him so that he and his family could stay safe as well. But looking at those papers made me realize how fragile life truly is. How just a single note on a sheet of paper will allow me to say goodnight to my daughter tomorrow. That feeling struck me to my very core. And I knew that I just couldn't let things be for most people out there who are not fortunate enough to get access to this life-saving information. I knew there was no time to waste, and I asked the professor if he agrees to let me share this information with everyone out there. He was extremely happy to do so, and his only request was not to mention his name because he doesn't want any attention on him. I said of course, and then worked day and night to turn those papers into a digital emergency survival guide so that anyone, no matter where they are, can get access to it as fast as possible before it's too late. This practical guide is the mother of all courses because it not only prepares you for a pandemic disaster, but also helps you stay safe in the chaos that follows after. A one-of-a-kind course that you won't find anywhere else on the internet. We called it the Emergency Survival Course. This is a step-by-step guide on how to survive a global pandemic, even when the governments and public authorities are completely overwhelmed by the situation and your chances of staying alive are slim to none. Here's what you'll find in this emergency guide. How to dramatically lower your chances of being infected, even when you are forced to leave your home and expose yourself to people who are already carriers of the disease. The first thing you must do right away if you suspect that you or someone you love is in danger of being infected. You won't find out about this in mainstream media or on any other survival sites. The one item you need to carry with you at all times in a pandemic event that will increase your chances of survival, even when everyone else is getting infected around you. How to increase the chances of survival for the elderly and disabled. These novel viruses have shown to be 10 times deadlier for senior people, so read this one carefully. How to properly sterilize your household items and the ones you bring from outside. Friendly warning, just alcohol could only make things worse. How to have a fresh source of healthy food that will keep your immune system strong when all the supermarkets are either closed or have empty shelves and everyone else is begging for scraps. The worst thing you can do when your block has been forced into quarantine that will considerably decrease your chances of survival. Warning, this has nothing to do with leaving your house. The proper way to keep your hands clean. You'd think mainstream media has got this one right, but you'll be shocked once you read this. What's the first thing you must do if a neighbor drops by your door and shows early signs of disease? Hint, not answering the door could put your family in great danger, even if he decides to leave peacefully. How to keep water clean and decontaminated and your home heated even when the entire grid goes down. How to make your home invisible from angry mobs who are desperately looking for food and medical supplies. You need to act on this right away. How to barter for food and medical supplies without getting infected, and how to properly sanitize the bartered items. How to build your own decontaminated area, no matter if you're at home or in the middle of the wilderness. Most people are missing out on this crucial element of survival. The 7 foods almost everyone keeps in their home that will boost your immune system and increase your chances of survival. Mainstream media blatantly fails to talk about this. And this is just a glimpse of what you'll find inside. This course is what you need for you and your family to stay safe during the pending disaster. Giving the professor's experience with disease and global pandemics and my years of survival training, this course is a unique combination that you won't find anywhere else on the internet. And on top of all this, you're also getting unlimited access to our private members area, where you can ask me and the professor any questions you may have. We will be here for you in the dark times ahead, because when the apocalyptic mayhem sets in, the only thing that will matter is keeping your family safe. For me, those people are my wife and 2 little daughters. For you, it might be a spouse, a son, a daughter, a granddaughter, or maybe an elderly family member. Those people are relying on you as much as my family relies on me, because they know if any of us get infected or harmed during these dark times, no one will be there to protect them. So when I created this emergency course, I knew I had to make a very hard choice to set a fair price so that anyone, no matter of age or social status, could get their hands on this. But before I answer that, let me ask you a question. How much is your life worth? For your government, it's probably worth somewhere between $500 and $10,000 because that's how much a hospital bed costs. When this disaster happens and hospitals are filled to the brim with dying people, they'll be forced to choose who gets to live and who gets to die. And who do you think they'll put at the top of the list? Are you willing to let your family be in the hands of someone who has a split second to decide if your name will be crossed off the list of those who are left to die? Take a good look at what's currently going on in the world. This is not fiction. This is actually happening in countries where the pandemic has become uncontrollable by the medical system. Doctors are being forced to choose who lives and dies. And it's been proven throughout history that the same thing will happen every time a major crisis hits. So I ask you again, how much is your life and the life of your family worth to you? Is it worth $500? Maybe more, maybe $10,000. During all the years of my survival training, I've come across one undeniable truth. When it comes to my safety and the safety of those who I love, I'll gladly pay any price there is to pay to keep them safe and sound. When the professor and I created this course, we combined all the knowledge we both had about how to survive a global pandemic and how to thrive in moments of darkness and despair. We wanted everyone to feel confident that once they went through this guide, they'll finally have the information to keep their families safe. They'll know exactly what to do when the entire world turns into panic, when food and medicine trucks are being stopped dead in their tracks, when supermarket shelves become empty and pharmacies are being looted by those in desperate need of medical care. To know what to do when infection is all around you and to protect yourself from a hostile enemy that's ready to take over your body as soon as you step outside your house. Just think about what this emergency course will do for you and your family. You'll finally be able to increase your chances of not being infected when everyone inside your community is. And if you do get infected, you'll know the first thing you must do to increase your chances of surviving. You'll know how to keep your food safe and decontaminated from this deadly virus. Just one mistake, and it could make your entire stockpile useless. You'll have the ability to keep your home safe from the predators who are coming to get the last remains of your supplies. And you'll even have the power to help others without getting infected. This is the type of information you won't find anywhere else on the internet. And it's going to be like this for a while. Because unlike everyone else, including most survival experts out there who unconsciously think their standard survival plan will work in a situation like this emergency guide actually helps you get through this nightmare crisis and all the calamities it brings with it. That's why this information is so valuable. And that's why it was so hard for me to put a price on it, knowing that it could save so many lives. My survivalist friends have advised me to sell it at $500. Some even considered $1,000 a fair price. But I'm not here for the money, as this presentation has already shown. I'm here because I want to put survival ahead of fairness and help as many people as I can with this life-saving course. That's why today, you'll have the power to keep your family safe during the upcoming disaster, because you are getting the Emergency Survival Course for only $49, not a penny more. And all you have to do is click on the order button below. This course is not available anywhere else on the internet right now. This is the only website that has it, and for as long as I can keep it live, which will not be for long, judging by how things are escalating right now, you can still get this course right now. So I urge you to hit the order button and secure your order before it's too late. And you should know that the price doesn't matter because I'm going to give you the chance to get this entire guide for free. We stand behind our work, and we are proud to say that it could save many lives. That's why over the next 2 months, once you go through the course and see how life-saving this information really is, if after all this time has passed, you consider that this course is not for you, I'll give you back every penny you spend on it. Just shoot me an email or call me, and myself or the professor are going to personally take care of this. No questions, no hassle, no red tape. And you should know that in all my years as a survival coach, mentor, and even protector of my family, I have never failed to respond to a life-threatening event. That's why I'm so confident in this emergency survival course. Because for me, survival is more important than seeing some numbers in my bank account. As I'm sure when it comes to keeping your loved ones safe, you feel the same. So click on the order button below. And once you get your hands on the Emergency Survival Course, you can learn all the valuable information inside because you'll feel confident that you are protected by a 2 months, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. Click on the button now and do it fast because the global infestation is imminent. In fact, it's already begun. Schools have been closed, cities have been placed into quarantine, entire countries have been shut down. Tens of millions have been left by their governments to fend for their lives. This is not a prediction. This is fact. It's happening right now. And it's only a matter of time until it reaches your doorstep and forces you to let it in. Right now, you still have a choice to make. You still have options left. But your choices are getting slimmer by the minute. For each person that gets infected by this virus, for each poor person that dies, you and your family are in even greater danger. Right now, in this very second, you have to decide what kind of man you are. Are you the one that your family can rely on? Can they rely on you? Just ask yourself this simple question. What if? What if this terrible disaster happens and I could have done something about it? What if, in that moment of despair, I could have had all the information I needed to protect my family and keep them safe? What if I had the knowledge to control whether they live or die? Would you be able to look at yourself if something happens to them? Would you be able to sit, watch, and do nothing as tears fall on the floor from your granddaughter's innocent eyes? Tears of pain and hopelessness when she finally realized that there is nobody in this whole world who could help her. Because the only person who could have done something about it had one chance, just one, and hesitated. Don't let it be you. Don't leave your only chance of making it through this crisis in the hands of the unprepared, or the hungry for ratings mainstream media, or government shills. The most dangerous words anyone will ever hear are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Because the only thing that your government has prepared for you is a plastic bag with a tag to write your name on it. The countdown has already started, and when the doomsday clock bangs midnight, it'll then be too late for you and your loved ones. You have all the information right here on this website at this very moment for a short time at your disposal. That button below is your last chance to do something about it. Click on it now. Secure your family's future. And I'll see you on the other side with a special announcement. Stay safe and God bless. John Laham.